Chapter 19, Fornication. Mhm. Let's go. Fornication means an adolescence. Adolescence.
Adolescence.
Adolescence.
Adolescence.
Adolescence. Adolescence or a young man's wantonness. Wantonness.
Wantonness.
Wantonness. With a loose woman before marriage. But wantonness with a woman who is not loose, that is with a virgin or with someone else's wife, is not fornication. With the virgin, it is violation, and with someone else's wife, it is adultery. A rational person can see how these two activities differ from fornication only if he observes sexual love in all its levels and diversities, both its chaste qualities on the one hand and its unchaste qualities on the other, and divides each part into genera and species, and contrasts them in this way. There is no other way. The difference between more and less chaste and between more and less unchaste can emerge as a concept for a person. Emerge.
Emerge.
Emerge. Like appear. Come. Emerge. As a concept for a person. Without these distinctions, all reference is lost. And along with its insight, it matters of judgment, and your intellect is wrapped in such shadow that it does not know how to tell fornication from adultery, still less the mild, mild, mild. It's like soft. Still less the mild aspects of fornication from the serious ones, and the same for adultery. Thus it mixes the evils together and makes one stew.
Stew.
Stew. It's like cook, torment in this sense, torment. And makes one stew from different evils and one pie from different types of good. One pie.
Pie.
Pie. It's like piece of cake. And one pie from different types of good. What does it mean? It's about cake. So for sexual love to be clearly recognized as to the part of it that tends and moves toward the illicit love that is totally opposite to married love, It is useful to throw light on its beginning, which is fornication. This is done in this order. Fornication is related to love for the other sex. It begins when a growing boy starts to think and act from his own understanding and his voice starts to become manly. Fornication belongs mainly. It's like
Manly.
manly. It's about male, manly. And his voice starts to become manly. It's not manly. Manly.
Manly.
Manly. Fornication belongs to the worldly side of a person. Fornication is a desire, but not a desire for adultery. In some people, love for the other sex cannot quite be kept from escaping into fornication, not without harm. This is why brothels,
Brothels.
brothels, it's like brothels, it's not brothels. This is why brothels are tolerated in populous communities.
Populous.
This is why brothels are tolerated in populous communities. A desire for fornication is a small matter in the degree that it has married love in view and prefers it. A desire for fornication is serious in the degree that it has adultery in view. A desire for fornication is more serious as it shades off towards a desire for promiscuity and a desire for defloration. The aura of a desire for fornication, the way it is at its beginning, is in the middle between illicit love's aura and married love's aura, and it provides a balance. Watch out that the love in marriage is not lost due to disorderly and immoderate fornication. Immoderate.
Immoderate.
Immoderate. Immoderate. And immoderate fornication. Moderate like unrestrained, excessive. Immoderate fornications. Because the marriage relationship of one man with one wife is the precious treasure of human life and the Christian religion's treasury. This marriage relationship can be protected in those who cannot enter marriage for various reasons and who cannot hold their passions back because of their sex drive. If their unsettled love of the other sex is confined to one mistress. Having a mistress is better than indulging roving passions. Roving.
Roving.
Roving. Like stray. Roving passions, if only it is not done with more than one, nor with a virgin or not yet sexually active woman, nor with a married woman, and if it is kept separate from the love in marriage. Now comes the explanation of these remarks. Maybe someone wants to read next section. Maybe any comments? Fornication is related to love for the other sex. We say that fornication is related to love for the other sex because fornication is not love for the other sex but comes from it. Love for the other sex is like a spring that married love and illicit love can both be drawn from.
Drawn.
Drawn. Drawn from. They can be drawn from it both with and without fornication, because love for the other sex is in every person, and it either comes out of or does not come out. If it comes out before marriage with a loose woman, it is called fornication. If not until with a wife, it is called marriage. If with another woman after marriage, it is called adultery. For as was said, love for the other sex is like a spring that chaste love can bubble out of, as well as unchaste love. And the following articles will show the caution, what is it? The caution.
Caution.
It's like warning. Will show the caution and good sense that will bring chaste married love out through fornication and the recklessness. Recklessness.
Recklessness.
Recklessness. It's not. It's like folly.
Folly.
Recklessness that will bring out unchaste or illicit love through it. You can assume.
Assume.
Assume. It's like suppose. Assume. Who can assume that someone who has fornicated cannot be far more chaste than that when married? Maybe any comments, or maybe someone wants to read next section. Section 446. Love of the other sex, which fornication comes from, begins when a growing boy starts to think and act from his own understanding, and his voice starts to become manly. This is brought up in order to make the beginning of love for the other sex. Love of the other sex, which fornication comes from, begins when a growing boy starts to think and act from his own understanding, and his voice starts to become manly. This is brought up in order to make the beginning of love for the other sex, and therefore fornication known, which is when the intellect begins to be rational on its own, or to look around from its own rationality and foresee what things are profitable maybe.
Profitable.
Profitable. It's like beneficial. Profitable.
Beneficial.
Things are profitable and useful. Things remembered from parents and teachers serve as a basis for this. A change takes place in the mind at the time. Before, it only thought from things committed to memory, thinking about them and obeying them. Then by reasoning about them. Then with love leading, it arranges things fixed in the memory into a new order and undertakes a life of its own consistent with this order, thinks more and more according to its own reason, and wills from its own freedom. It is well known that love for the other sex accompanies the entrance of your own intellect and advances in keeping with its vigor, a sign that this love ascends as intellect ascends and declines as it declines. What is declines? Mhm.
declines,
Declines. Mhm. It's like decrease, declining, declines. By ascend, understand, ascend to wisdom, and by decline, decline to folly. Wisdom is to manage love for the other sex, and folly is to let it run wild. If set free in fornication, which is the beginning of its activity, it should be governed on the principles of respectability, respectability, respect,
respectability,
respectability, presentability, solidity, respectability and morality that are implanted in memory and from that in reason, and later implanted in reason and from that in memory. The reason why your voice begins to become manly at the same time that your own intellect begins is that intellect thinks and it speaks from thought, and thought a sign that intellect makes the man, and also his manliness. Manliness. It's like masculine.
manliness,
Yeah. My manliness. Manliness.
masculinity,
Masculinity. Manliness. And also his manliness, so that as intellect is elevated, it makes the person a man and also a manly man. Mhm. Maybe any comments? Maybe
What is fornication again?
fornication is like mm,
fornication,
extramarital affair. It's like sex outside of marriage. Like
Oh,
it's fornication. Maybe do you want to read next section? 447.
sure.
Go ahead.
Fornication belongs to the worldly side of a person, just like love for the other sex, which is called fornication if it if it becomes active before marriage. Every person is born physical, develops the senses, then becomes worldly and gradually rational. And if he does not stop there, he becomes spiritual. It proceeds in this way to form plateaus on which higher things can rest.
What is plateaus?
plateaus,
Oh,
Plateaus.
plateaus.
It's like plate, uh, highland, mm, form of plateaus. Hmm.
Form plateaus on which higher things can rest, as a palace rests on its foundations. The lowest level, with what is built on it, can also be compared to soil where excellent seeds can be sown when it is prepared. Concerning love for the other spe- specifically,
Specific. Hmm.
it is also physical at first, for it starts out in the body. Then it develops in the senses, for it is delightful to the five senses. Afterwards, it becomes worldly, just like same love in animals, because love for the other sex is roving. But man is born to become spiritual, so this love later becomes rational on a worldly plane, and from being rational on a worldly plane, it becomes spiritual, and finally it becomes spiritual,
Ro- Sex is rowing. Rowing.
roving,
movable.
It's like
Is it
movable.
Swedish?
No, it's the book of Swedenborg. He lived in Sweden, and he was from Sweden and lived in England.
I
This
have never
is
heard about
the,
that person.
he's a very famous person, and he has third highest IQ in history. His IQ is 206. He's a
Nice.
genius, and his books are very smart and wise.
That's real cool.
A lot of great A lot of great people love to read his books and learn from them.
On the worldly plane.
So if you mhm,
And then
go
this
on.
love, having become spiritual, influences and acts on rational love, and through this on sensory love, and finally through this on the love in body and flesh. And because this is its lowest plane in it acts on it spiritually and rationally and sensorily all at once. It follows the same pattern of influence and acts this way when a person is thinking about it, but simultaneously when he is occupied on the outer
It's plan or plane. Let's see.
plane.
Plane,
plane,
plane. Plane in this sense, like it's like aircraft, airplane, but it's level to surface. In this sense, it's like lowest plane. It's like
Lowest
level,
level.
level, lowest level. Mhm. On the outermost.
Outermost level. Fornication belongs to the worldly side of a person because it comes right out of worldly love of the other sex. Also, it can be rational on a worldly plane, but not spiritual, because love for the other sex cannot become spiritual until it becomes marital, and
Mm-hmm.
love of the other sex turns from worldly to spiritual when a person moves away from roving passion and devotes himself to one partner whose so what's that soul
So,
he unites his soul to.
mhm. Thank you. Uh, Fornication is a desire, but not a desire for adultery. The reasons why fornication is a desire are it comes from the worldly side of a person, and there is selfishness and lust in everything that comes from that. For the worldly side of a person is nothing. For the worldly side of a person is nothing but a home and a container of self-interests and passions, since everything blameworthy, blameworthy. What is it? Blame.
blameworthy,
Mhm. It's like punishable,
punishable,
blameworthy, inherited from your parents, settles there. A fornication has a roving and promiscuous eye for the other sex and is not looking for one person of the other sex yet, and so long as he is in that condition, passion prompts him to do what he does. But as he inclination and inclines or inclines,
inclines,
inclines like bow, lean, inclines toward one and loves to join his life together with her life. Lust becomes a chaste affection, and passion becomes human love. Chaste affection.
affection,
Affections like love, devotion. Mhm. Anyone can observe from common sense that a desire for fornication is not a desire for adultery. Which law would judge charges a fornicator with the same offense as an adulterer? Offense.
offense,
Offense. As an adulterer. The reason you discover this from common sense is that fornication is not opposite to married love the way adultery is. Love for marriage can be stored away deep within fornication as something spiritual can be in something worldly. In fact, the spiritual does indeed develop out of the worldly. And when spirituality develops, worldliness surrounds it like the bark on wood and the sheath. What is it? Sheath.
sheath,
Sheath. It's like shell, casing. Mhm.
sheath,
Sheath of a sort. Sheath of a sort, and also serves the spiritual thing as protection against violence. It is clear from these observations that the worldly love that is for the other sex comes before the spiritual love that is for one person of the other sex. But though fornication comes from a worldly love for the other sex, it can be whipped clean. Wiped, maybe. Whipped. Ah,
wiped,
wiped. Wiped. Like wipe away. It can be wiped clean to provided that you look to the love in marriage, want it and seek it as the best thing. It is totally different with the lustful and absence love of adultery. Absence.
obscene,
Obscene.
obscene,
Obscene. It's like dirty, vulgar. The lustful and obscene love of adultery, which the previous chapter about illicit love and married love being opposite pointed out, is opposite to the love in marriage and the destroyer of it. So if for various reasons an intentional or confirmed adulterer gets into a marriage bed, things turn upside down. Worldliness with its lewd and absence qualities lies lewd.
lewd,
Lewd's like shameless. Lewd and absence qualities lies within, and the spiritual appearance veils it outward. From these observations, reason can see that the lust of controlled fornication compares to the lust of adultery as early warmth compares to the midwinter cold in Arctic regions. Midwinter. It's like middle of
midwinter,
winter, midwinter. And some people love for the other kept from
Where
escaping
it's
into. Ah, hello.
by joining to read.
Yeah, it's nice to see you and hear you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to see too. And some
Okay.
people love for the other sex cannot quite be kept from escaping into fornication, not without harm. There is no point in listing the bad effects that too much restraint of love for the other sex can cause and bring about it, those who have to live with sexual arousal due to excessive potency, certain physical afflictions and them spring from it, and moodiness, not to mention strange, unmentionable offenses. It is different for those who have little enough sex drive to resist the pressures of what it wants. The same goes for those who are free to begin a legitimate bedroom relationship at a young age without loss of
This
words.
moodiness, uh,
Moodiness.
moodiness. It's like
Sullenness.
sullenness. It's like gloom. This sense.
Gloom.
It's like mm, bad feeling, moodiness, like this moodiness, without loss of worldly.
Worldly goods. In a virgin marriage, that is, since this happens for children in heaven when they reach an age to marry. They do not know what fornication is there, but the situation is not the same on earth, where people cannot marry until their youth is past. This happens to many under governments where it takes a long time to be entitled to work, to obtain the means to support a home and family, and then at last to seek a suitable wife.
Mhm. This is why brothels, brothel, brothels. Yeah, it's like
Brothels.
brothels is like houses of prostitutes, like brothels of prostitution. This is why brothels are tolerated in populous communities. This is mentioned to reinforce the previous article. It is well known that kings, magistrates, maybe
Magistrates.
magistrates. It's like judge to magistrates, officer, magistrates, and therefore judges, prosecutors, pros, prosecute, prosecutors.
Prosecutors.
Prosecutors. It's like accuser, prosecutor. Prosecutors and the people tolerate brothels in London, Amsterdam, Paris, Paris,
Paris.
Paris, Wien. Yeah,
Vienna.
Vienna. Yeah, I know there are a lot of brothels in Amsterdam, for example. Vienna, Venice,
Venice.
Venice, Naples, Naples,
Naples.
Naples. It's like cities in Europe. And also Rome, as well as in many other places. The things noted above are among the reasons why. Mhm, mhm. Who's next? Who wants to read next? Maybe next section 452.
Yeah, I can read.
Go ahead.
Is a small matter and the degree that it has merit love in view and prefers it. There are degrees of badness just as there are degrees of goodness. So any evil is lighter or more grave, the same as any good thing is better or best. It is the same with fornication, which is an evil because it is a desire and belongs to the still unpurified worldly person. But every person can be purified, so the evil becomes a smaller evil in the degree.
Mhm. Uh, what is lighter? The degrees of badness slighter. Evil is slighter.
Slighter.
Slighter. It's like small. Slighter. Degree.
That is approaching a purified state because in that degree it is wiped away, and the degree that fornication approaches married love, which is the purified state of love for the other sex. The next article will show that the evil of fornication is more serious in the degree that it approaches adulterous love. Fornication is small matter so far as it looks toward married love, because then it is looking from the unchaste state it, it isn't toward a chaste state. And in the degree that the person prefers this state, he is in it too, so far as his mind goes, and in the degree that he not only prefers it but loves it more, he is also in it as to his will, thus as to his inner person. Then, if he persists in fornication just as much, it is something unavoidable for reasons that he is examining in himself. Two consideration cause fornications to be a small thing and those who
Who? Unavoidable. Unavoidable. What is it?
Unavoidable.
Unavoidable. It's like undeniable, inevitable. Unavoidable.
Unavoidable.
Unavoidable. This word only prefers or prefers?
prefer, I guess.
Prefers.
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 Prefers. Prefers. Prefers like this. Prefers. And only prefers it, but think in those who
Prefer the state of marriage and love it more. The first is that married life is their purpose, intention, or goal. The second is that within themselves they keep the evil separate from the good. Concerning the first consideration, that married life is their purpose, intention, or goal, it is because a person is the kind of person he is in his purpose, intention, or goal, and this is also what he is like in the eyes of the Lord and in the eyes of the
it's
and
like this word is like purpose.
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 Purpose. It's like goal. Purpose. Maybe I don't know, maybe we can say purpose, but I think it's like purpose. Purpose, yeah? Eyes of the angels.
angels. In fact, this is how he is viewed in the eyes of wise people in the world. For intention is the soul of every act and causes convictions and pardons in the world, and is attributed to you after death. Concerning the second consideration, that those who prefer married love to the lust of fornication keep the bad separate from the good, or the unchaste from the chaste. Those who separate these two in concept and intention before they are in a good or chaste life are still separated and purified of the evil of their lust when they enter a married state. The article that follows next will show that this doesn't happen to those who look to adultery in fornication.
Mhm. A desire for fornication is serious in the degree that it has adultery in view. All those who do not think adultery is a sin and think the same thing of marriages as of adulteries, with allowed and forbidden, the only difference have adultery in view in their desire for fornication. Also, they make one evil out of all evils and mix them together like filth with edible food in one dish. Edible food.
Edible.
It's like food stuff. It's like eatable.
Eatable.
Eatable and edible. Edible food in one dish. And like dregs mixed with wine in one drink. Dregs mixed with wine. What is dregs?
Dregs.
Dregs is like sludge.
Sludge.
Sludge. Like dregs mixed with wine in one drink, and they eat and drink that way. This is like what they do with love for the other sex, fornication, keeping a mistress, mm, mild, mild, mild.
Mild.
It's like soft, mild, serious, and most serious adultery, even with violation and defloration. Besides this, they not only stir all this together, but also mix them in with marriages and defile the marriages with the same notion. But after Rowan encounters with the other sex, Rowan, it's like
Roving.
movable. But after Rowan encounters with the other sex, those who do not even find any difference between these acts and marriages encounter coldness, distaste, and nausea. Nausea. I forgot.
Nausea.
Nausea. It's like disgust. Nausea. First for their spouse, then for other partners, and finally for the whole other sex. It is self evident that there is no good or chaste purpose, intent, or goal in them to excuse them, nor any separation of good from bad or chaste from unchaste to purify them, as in those who looked forward from fornication to married love and preferred, mentioned in the last article. I am allowed to confirm these things by this news from heaven. I have met many who outwardly lived like others in the world, dressing smartly, dining, dining in style, dining.
Dining.
Dining. Dining. It's like light lunch. It's like dinner.
Dinner.
Dinner, but dining. Dining in style, doing business for profit, like others, seeing plays, joking about love affairs as if out of lust, and other things like that. And yet the angels attributed these things to some as sinful evils and to some as not evils. And they pronounced the one group guilty, guilty, and the others innocent, guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. I knew this word. Guilty. The one group guilty and the others innocent. On being questioned why it was this way, even though both groups did the same things, the angels answered that all are viewed as to their purpose, intention, or goal, and separated on the basis of these things. So the excuse of condemn those whom the goals excuse or condemn, since everyone in heaven has a good goal, and everyone in hell a bad one. And this and nothing else is the meaning of the Lord's words. Do not judge, so you will not be judged. Who wants to read next section? 454.
A desire for fornication is more serious as it shades upwards. A desire for promiscuity and a desire for defloration. The reason is that these two things reinforce adultery and thus make it worse. For there is mild, serious, and very serious adultery, and the details are vague according to their opposing, and therefore destroying married love. Articles about it to come later will show that desire for promiscuity and desire for defloration established by actual behavior ruin the love and marriage and sink it as if to the bottom of the sea.
Mhm. The order of a desire for fornication, the way it is at its beginning, is in the middle between illicit love's aura and married love's aura, and it provides a balance. The two auras of illicit love and married love were discussed in an earlier chapter, and it showed that illicit love's aura comes up out of hell and married love's aura comes down from heaven. That the two auras meet in both worlds but do not mingle, that the two auras are in balance and people are in disbalance, that a person can turn toward the aura he chooses, but so far as he turns toward one, he turns away from the other. And what is meant by auras, and the place is cited there. The aura of a desire for fornication is in between these two auras and makes the balance, because while a person is in this aura, he can turn to the aura of married love, that is to this love, and also to the aura of adulterous love, that is to a love of it. But if he turns toward married love, he turns toward heaven. If
Hello.
hello, if toward adulterous love he turns toward hell, either choice is at the judgment, pleasure, and will of the person, so that he can act freely according to reason and not by instinct, I think.
Instinct.
Yeah, instinct. Therefore, so he can be a human and take the influence on himself, not a beast that takes nothing to itself. The heading says, desire for fornication, the way it is at its beginning, because it is in the intermediate state then. Who does not know that at first whatever a person does comes from selfishness, because it comes from the person's worldly side? And who does not know that he is not blamed for that selfishness when he changes from worldly to spiritual? It is the same with the desire for fornication. Once the person's love turns into married love. Mhm. Who is next?
Can I, sir?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Mhm.
Okay. Watch out that the love is watch out the sorry watch out the love in marriage is not lost due to immoderate and disorderly fornications. The immoderate and the disorderly fornications by which the love in marriage is lost means fornications that not only sap your strength but also take all the happiness out of the love in marriage. From free and unrestrained fornication spring not only diseases and resultant weaknesses, but also impurities and immoderacies that keep the love emerged from begin noticed and felt in its
This word, it in immodesties like this.
sorry,
Immodesties.
Yeah,
immodesties.
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 Immodesties. Thank you,
It's
sir.
it's like shamelessness.
Ah, okay.
Immod-
Thank you.
Modest. And this word is like mm, immoderate. I forgot immoderate.
Immoderate.
Immoderate. Immoderate.
Okay.
Unrestrained. Excessive. Moderate.
Okay.
Resultant. Okay, next page.
Uh, cleanness and chastity. Sorry, chastity. Chastity.
Может,
Chastity.
maybe chastity or chastity. Let's see.
Chastity.
Chastity.
Chastity, but it's like chaste and chastity.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thus, in its sweetness and in the bloom of its delight, not to mention physical and mental injuries, as well as forbidden enticement that not only deprive married love of its happy pleasures, but take it away besides and turn it into coldness and thus into loathing. Grecian orgies are that kind of fornications. They twist married play into tragic scenes for immoderate and disorderly fornication are
Mhm.
like fires
Enticement. What is it?
enticement
Enticements.
It's like
enticement.
temptation.
Okay,
Enticements. And loathing. Thus into loathing.
loathing,
Loathing.
loathing, loathing,
Loathing.
loathing,
Loathing. It's like
Loathing.
disgust, detest.
loathing. Oh yeah, loathing. Okay,
Loathing. Mhm. I
Hello.
like fires. Hello.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
well,
Hello. We're reading the book. You can see this book on the stream, and if you want to read, you can read too in your turn.
What the book is about?
The title "Love and Marriage." It's about spiritual meaning of love and marriage, like this. It's about mind, like this. I think
About my
mind, like
mind.
this book is about mind. Like he describes mind of a person. And
Oh, so it's about psychology,
yeah, I think so. And actually, it's about philosophy and
philosophy, and psychology. Oh, interesting.
yeah, it's a good way to learn English from this book too. Okay, go on, keep reading.
okay, that rise up from your lowest part and inflame your body. Charge its fibers for your blood and corrupt
Fibers, maybe fibers.
fibers.
Yeah, fibers,
Fibers.
fibers.
Okay,
It's like fibers. I can't explain.
fibers.
What is
Okay,
Material, maybe material of body.
to what
Parch.
is the meaning of inflame, by the way? Inflame.
Inflame, like influence, like this.
Inflame.
Inflame. It's about flame. It's about fire. Catch fire. Do you see? Kindle, catch fire.
Catch fire.
Like
Like oil, something like this. Yeah,
Ignite.
guys.
ignite. Like to set fire to the forest.
Okay.
Mm, Inflame. And parch. What is parch?
Parch.
Parch. It's like drain, dry. Parch. It's fibers.
Okay, and corrupt the rational parts of your mind or they break out like a fire from the basement into the house and burn it all up. Burn it all up. Parents should be careful not to let this happen because an adolescent boy excited by desire cannot yet pull limits of himself by reason.
Thank you. Who
Thank you.
wants to read next section? 457.
I want.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
go ahead. There we go.
Please correct me.
Mm-hmm.
Parents should be careful not to let this happen because an adolescent boy excited by desire cannot yet put limits on himself by reason. So because
Go on. Mm-hmm.
because the marriage relationship of one man with one wife is a precious treasure of human life and the Christian diligence. I don't know diligence or diligence.
Religions.
Diligence.
Hello. Mm-hmm. Hello.
Treasury. Religion treasury. These are two things that have been demonstrated generally and in detail in the whole preceding part about sensible joy of married love. It is the precious treasure of human life because of a because a person's life is just the same as that love in him. It makes his innermost life, for it is the life of wisdom, living together with its love and of love living together with its wisdom. Okay. And so it is the life of the delights of each of these. In a word, a person is a living soul through this love. This is why the marriage relationship, sorry,
Can I read?
marriage relationship of one man with one wife is called the precious treasure of human life. Yeah, that's it.
Can I read?
Can I?
Yeah, if you want, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. The things mentioned above confirm it. With one wife, a real marriage, friendship, confidence, and potency are possible because a union of mind is possible. In marriage, and from it are the heavenly blessings, spiritual pleasures, and worldly happiness provided from the beginning from those who are in real married love. It is the basic love of all the heavenly, spiritual, and the therefore worldly lovers, and all joys, all kinds, and of happiness from first to last are gathered, gathered together,
Gathered.
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 Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
In that love, and in this sensible joy of married love, which is the first part of this book, it is fully shown that veered in its source, it is wisdom played with love.
Mm-hmm.
This love is the Christian religion's treasury, because this religion becomes one with this love, and they live together. For it was pointed out, no others come into that love, or can be in it, except those who approach the Lord and do the true and good things of His church. Yeah, His church.
Mm-hmm. Church.
That yes, That love is from the Lord only, and it's found only among those who are of the Christian religion. Married love is in the keeping with the condition of the church because it's keeping with the state of wisdom and in a person. In the role chapter about its correspondence with the marriage of the Lord and the Church, in the chapter about the source of
Chapter.
the love, chapter, sorry, in the chapter about the source of that love from the marriage of God and truth, it is established that these things are so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who, who who wants to read next? Section 459.
I can go read.
Go on. Go ahead.
Marriage relationship can be protected, and those who cannot enter marriage for various reasons and who cannot hold their passions back because of their sex drive, if their love of the other sex is confined to one mistrust. Reason sees and experience teaches that those who are salacious cannot hold in their immoderate and disorderly passions. So, to curb this excess and disorder, and hold it to some moderation and order, and those who have to live with their sex drive and for many reasons cannot rush quickly into marriage.
Oh, what is drive, sex drive. It's not like sex drive, but it's like sex drive. Yeah, it's like two words. We should understand these two words. Like, it's like to desire. Yeah, like sex drive, sex desire. And
Kind of
what is?
direction. I mean,
Sorry, what?
it's kind of direction. Something like this,
Y-
sex drive, kind of direction.
y-
Yeah.
yeah, it's like willing and desire, sex drive, like two words. The latches. What is it?
Salacious.
Salacious. Salacious. It's like obscene.
Obscene.
Obscene. Dirty, like dirty. Salacious. And the curb. What is curb?
Curb.
Curb. It's like a restriction. Restriction.
Restriction.
Restriction. Curb. Cannot rush quickly into marriage.
Into marriage. The only refuge and asylum, so to speak.
Asylum. It's
Oh,
very important word. If you want to have refuge in any country, for example, in America, you can ask for
Asylum.
asylum
even American
on the
way.
border. Asylum.
Asylum, asylum, so to speak, seems to be taking a mistress, as the French say, maîtresse. I don't know. It is a well-known fact that in countries with regulations, many cannot marry until their youth is past, because they have to win positions first and obtain the means to keep a house and family, and only then court a suitable wife. And yet, few can keep the spring of their potency turned off and saved for a wife in the years leading.
This word is like potency or potency, like
Potency.
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 Potency. In the years leading.
To this. It is best to save it, but if the runaway energy of the desire prevents this, you look for a middle path to keep marriage love from dying in the meantime. These points argue that having a mistress is the way. It curbs and limits disorderly, promiscuous sexual relationships and in this way brings about a stricter condition, which is more like marriage. The fire of love, burning at sort of consuming at the outset, is settled and
Mistress. I forgot what is mistress.
Mistress.
It's like hostess, lover, favorite, sweetheart, and teacher, lady, mistress. Is settled and
tamed, and thus the wantonness of lecheries, which is full, is tempered by something analogous to marriage. It keeps one from throwing away sexual energy and becoming weak, as through, is it roving?
roving. Roving, it's like moving, I think. Yeah.
Roving.
Okay.
Roving.
Roving.
As through roving and unlimited carousing. Bodily
Corro- cor- what is it? Corrosing. Ah,
Carousing.
carousing. It's like feast, drink. It's like celebration like this.
Spree.
Spree. Boom. Okay. Carousing.
bodily disease and mental ills are avoided by it as well. At the same time, it guards against adulteries, which are affairs with wives, and debaucheries, which are violations of virgins, not to mention unmentionable offenses, for a boy in adolescence does not think that adulteries and debaucheries are any different from fornication, that is, he thinks that the one is the same as the other, nor does he know from reason how to resist, I don't know, enticements.
And enticements like it's
Enticements.
like temptation, involvement, temptation,
Seduction.
seduction, like deception.
To resist enticements from those of the other sex who have studiously applied themselves to the art of prostitution, but he can learn and see the differences in having a mistress, which is more orderly and healthier for
What is unmentionable? Like to mention,
Unmentionable.
unmentionable,
Unmentionable.
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 It's like undescent, undescribable, like this. Yeah,
Indecent.
indecent.
Indecent. Неприличный.
hmm Unmentionable. But in this sense, unmentionable, like, yeah, it's like,
Ну да,
but
не поддающийся описанию.
hmm it's like anything bad. And healthier for fornication.
fornication. There is not an approach through having a mistrust to the four kinds of lust that are in the highest degree destructive of married love, which are lust for defloration, lust for promiscuity, and lust for rape, and lust for seducing. Is it?
Seducing, I think, yeah. Seducing.
Seducing.
It's like tempting too. Seductive.
Seducing in nonsense ones, discussed in what follows. But these things are not said to those who cannot control the heat of passion, nor to those who can enter the married state as soon as they grow up, and can offer to their wife the first fruits of their manhood, and lay them before her.
Manhood.
Manhood.
Oh, it's like It's like this word.
Maturity.
Maturity. Manhood.
Maturity.
And lay them before her. Who is next?
Me.
Go ahead.
From 460.
Yeah, 460. Yeah.
Okay. How is my voice though? Before I start, can you guys hear me clearly?
Yeah, but maybe little, like volume. Volume is not well. Like
Okay.
quiet. Little quiet. Yeah,
Is
it's
it
better.
good now?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's better.
Having a mistress is better than indulging roving passions, if only if it is not done with more than one, nor with a virgin or not yet sexually active woman, nor with a married woman, and if it is kept separate from the love in marriage. When and for whom having a mistress is better than indulging wandering lusts was already pointed out just about.
Indulging.
In,
Indulging.
and what does the other word mean? Lust.
Indulging.
Last. Indulging is like uh, it's like devote himself, surrender. Surrender.
Surrender.
And lusts like it's like lusts like desires, I think.
Lusts.
Yeah, desire. You see. Pointed out just above.
Above. Having a mistress should not be done with more than one woman, because with more than one, something polygamous is in it, which puts a person in a merely worldly state, and puts him into such a sensual state that he can hardly be raised into the spiritual
State.
how to spiritual state where
Spiritual.
spiritual
Spiritual.
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 spiritual yeah, okay, spiritual state where married love has to be blah blah. It should not be done with a virgin or woman not yet sexually active, because the love of marriage in woman is
Women.
partnered. Woman.
It's a lot. It's women. It's not woman. Do you see?
Women.
This is
Women.
woman. It's one, but
Woman.
this word is
Women.
women. It's a lot.
Women. Okay.
Women.
Women.
Woman is partner to their virginity. This is where that love gets its chastity, purity, and holiness. So for a woman to promise it and give it to any man is to give a token that she is going to love him. Because of this, a young woman cannot hazard it through any reasonable agreement except with the security of a marriage covenant, and it is the crown of her reputation. So to take it away without a marriage covenant and later abandon her is
What is
covenant. What does it
a covenant? Is like agreement, contract. But what
mean?
is hazard?
Hazard.
Hazard, like danger, hazard,
Yeah.
Danger.
hazard.
Could you click on covenant?
Covenant. It's
Yeah.
like a
Covenant.
agreement. They see contract,
Covenant.
testament, like pact, obligation.
Yeah.
It's like agreement between parts. And let abandon her is to
Make a harlot of some virgin who could be a bride and chaste wife, or to defraud some man, and either thing is destructive. Because of this, someone who joins a virgin to himself as a mistress may in fact live with her and In this way, introduce her to the friendship of love, but always with a firm intention that she be or become his wife is if she does not commit adultery. It is obvious that a married woman should not be a mistress because the because that
Defraud.
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 It's like deceive, entice.
yeah trick someone.
Mm-hmm.
Entice.
Entice. Mm-hmm. And because that is
Adultery. Could you click on that so we hear the
ad-
pronunciation?
adultery.
Yeah,
Adultery.
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 Adultery. Like it's like fornication. Mm-hmm. It's like to yeah. It's about marriage. Mm-hmm.
Love with a mistress should be kept separate from married love because the two loves are different and therefore should not be mixed. For love with a mistress is an unchaste, worldly, and external love, but married love is chaste, spiritual, and internal. Love with a mistress keeps the two souls apart and joins only the sensory parts of their bodies. But married love unites souls, and from the union of souls, the sensual.
Love with the mistress. I should see because mistress has several meanings, and
Hmm.
it's like partner outside sexual partner outside of marriage. It's like
Yeah, the
lover.
same version, same meaning
Mm-hmm.
as before.
Mm-hmm. Love with the mistress. Mm-hmm. Of souls, the sensual.
Parts of bodies, two, until from two they become like one, which is one flesh. Love with a mistress only enters your intellect and the things that depend on intellect. But married love enters your will and the things that depend on will. Therefore, each and everything in the person. So, if love with a mistress becomes married love, the man has no right to withdraw without a violation of married union. And if he does go away and takes another married love and takes another, married love is lost in the break. N- Yeah, break. Note that love with a mistress is kept separate from married love by not promising the mistress marriage nor leading her to hope for marriage at all. Still, it is better for the torch of sexual love to be first light with a wife.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Who wants to read next section? 461. Mhm. I'll read. The following story is added to these remarks. I once spoke with a newly arrived spirit who had thought a lot about heaven and hell when he was in the world. Newly arrived spirits means people newly deceased, deceased, newly deceased.
Deceased.
It's like dead. Mhm. It's like newly dead, newly deceased, who are called the spirits because they are people's spirits. As soon as he entered the spiritual world, he began to think about heaven and hell in the same way as before and found himself happy when thinking about heaven and sad when thinking about hell. When he realized he was in the spiritual world, he asked at once where heaven and hell are, what they both are, and what they are like. They told him, heaven is above your head, and hell is under your feet, for you are now in the world of spirits, which is halfway between heaven and hell. But what heaven and hell are, and what they are like, we can't describe in a few words. He had a burning desire to know. Then so he threw himself on his knees and devoutly prayed to God to be instructed. And an angel appeared at his right. The angel stood him up and said, "You prayed to be instructed about heaven and hell. Ask around and find out what is delightful, and you'll know." The angel assigned it after saying this. Then the newly arrived spirit said to himself, "What is this? Ask around and find out what is delightful, and you'll know that heaven and hell are and what they're like." Delightful. Delightful is like disgusting. Anything. No.
Delightful.
It's like pleasant and joyful. It's a good word. Wonderful. Excellent.
Delightful.
Delightful. What is delightful? And you'll know what heaven and hell are and what they're like. But leaving that place, he wandered around and asked the people he met, "Please tell me what is delightful, if you will." And some said, "What kind of question is that? Who doesn't know what's delightful? Isn't joy and gladness? Delight is delight. One pleasure is like another. We don't know the difference." Others said that delight is mental laughter. Mental laughter.
Laughter.
Okay, mental laughter. For when your mind laughs, your face is cheerful, your voice chickles, or chuckles, how to say it?
Chuckles.
Chuckles. Chuckles. Like
Giggle.
giggle. Chuckles. Your voice chuckles, your gestures play, and the whole person is delighted. But others said, "What's delightful is just to feast and eat fine foods, and drink and get drunk on noble wine, and that chat about different things, mainly the games of Venus and Cupid." Cupid. Venus and Cupid.
Venus.
Venus and Cupid.
Cupid.
Cupid. It's like maybe sexual games in Greek. Mainly the games of Venus and Cupid. When he heard this, the newly arrived spirit peeved. What is it? Peeved? Peeved. It's like irritated.
Irritated.
Irritated. Peeved said to himself, "These answers are common and uncultivated. These delights are not heaven or hell. I wish I'd meet some wise people." He went away and asked, "Where are some wise people?" And then an angelic spirit saw him and said, "I notice that you are burning with a desire to know what the general idea of heaven and the general idea of hell is. It's delight, so I'll take you up a hill where people who explore results gather every day, and people who investigate the reasons and people who investigate the purposes. There are three groups: the ones who explore,
Explore.
explore. Results are called the spirits of facts and abstractly facts. The ones who investigate investigate the reasons are called spirits of intelligence and abstractly intelligences, and the ones who investigate the purposes are called the spirits of wisdom and abstractly wisdoms. Right above them, right above them, in heaven are angels who view the reasons from the purposes and the results from the reasons. The three groups get enlightenment from these angels. Then he took the newly arrived spirit's hand and led him up the hill to the group made up of those who explore purposes and are called wisdoms. Pardon my coming up to you, he said. The reason is that from childhood I've thought about heaven and hell, and I just arrived in this world, and then some people joined me and said that here heaven is above my head and hell is under my feet, but they didn't say what heaven and hell are and what they're like. So my constant thought about them made me so anxious I prayed to God. And there stood an angel, and he said, ask around and find out what is delightful, and you'll know. I asked, but so far in vain. So I beg of you, teach me what is delightful. To this the wise man answered, delight is all of life for everyone in heaven, and all of life for everyone in hell. For the ones in heaven it is delight in good and truth, but for the ones in hell it is delight in the bad and the false. For all delight has to do with love, and love is the essential thing in a person's life. So a person is a person according to his kind of delight, just as he is a person according to what kind of love he has. Love in action gives a feeling of delight. In heaven it acts with wisdom. In hell it acts with folly. Either way, it produces delight in the ones under its influence. But the heavens and the hells have opposite delights, because they have opposite loves. The heavens have the love of doing well and its delight, but the hells have the love of doing ill and its delight. So if you know what is delightful, you know what heaven and hell are and what they're like. But ask around some more and find out what is delightful from those who investigate the reasons and are called intelligences. They are to the right from here. He left, went over to them and told why he came, and he asked them to teach him what is delightful. Happy to be asked, they said. It's like big section, yeah. Maybe someone wants to continue from this, because it's a big section.
Okay, can I read, sir?
Yeah, from this. Happy to be asked.
Okay, happy to be asked. They said, it is true that someone who knows that the light is knows what heaven and hell are and what they are like, will, which is what makes the person is not moved even a jot except by the light. For will is nothing but its dispositions and the
Per, per se, yeah, per se in this word.
per se. Okay.
Say.
Per se. It's like one word. Per se.
Oh, okay. Per se is nothing but the dispositions and the performance of perform,
Jot.
right?
What is jot? Uh,
Jot.
So,
jot is like any write down, like any short write
oh,
down.
okay.
And the performance.
Performance of some love, some delight, because what makes you will is something pleasant. agreeable and delightful, and will move your intellect to think. So thought hasn't a single idea except from in the influence of will's delight. This is so because the Lord puts all the souls and all the minds of angels, spirits, and men into action by His influence. He puts them into actions by the influence of love and wisdom, and this influence is the very activity that all delight comes from, which is called blessed, blissful, and happy in its source and delight. Uh, pleasantness and pleasure in its outcome, in a general sense, it is called a good. But the spirits of hell turn everything about themselves upside down. So they also turn good into evil and truth into lie. The delight remains, for without the delight remaining, they have no will nor feelings, and thus no life. These observations make it clear what the delight of hell is, what it is like, and where it comes from, and what the delight of heaven is like and comes from. After hearing these things, we was led to the third group where there were the ones who explored results and are called facts. They said, go down into the lower land and go up into the higher land, into the one you will observe and feel the delights of the spirits of hell. And in the order, sorry, and in the order, the delights of the angels of heaven. But then the ground opened up at the distance from them, and three devils came up through the opening. They seemed a fire with the delights of their love. Those who were with the newly arrived spirit could tell that the three came up from hell providentially. So they said to them, "Don't come closer, but from the place where you are tell, you are tell." So
Providentially, like it's about providence, I think. Yeah,
Providentially.
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 Mhm.
Okay.
Tell
So
something.
tell something about your delights. They said everyone should understand, whether good or bad, has his delights. The good have the delights of their good, and the bad have the delights of their evil. What is your delight? They asked. They said that it was delight is whoring, whoring, whoring,
Mhm.
stealing,
Horin.
whoring. Okay, whoring, stealing, cheating, and blaspheming. I don't know how to say
Blaspheming is like to say against the religion of someone, or
Blaspheming.
just to say against God. It's like blaspheming.
Okay.
Blaspheming.
Hmm.
Okay. Then they asked, "What are those delights like?" They said, "To others, they smell like the bad smells from excrement, and like the stenches. I don't know, stenches.
Stenches. It's like bad smell.
Okay, stenches.
Stenches.
Stenches like stink.
Okay, stink. Okay. From corpse, and like the fumes from stagnant urine. They were
Fume,
asked
fumes. What is fumes?
fumes.
Fumes.
Oh, it's like vapor. Fumes.
What wiper?
Fumes.
Yeah, vapor.
Vapor.
Ah,
Vapor. Like
okay.
fog. people like to smoke, vape,
Vape, like
vape,
vape.
vapes, like this.
Okay. Uh, they were asked, "Are they are they delightful to you?" They said they are very delightful. Then you are like the uh, filthy animals that spend their time in things like that. They said. They answered, "If we are, but things like that are delightful to our noses." Okay. They were asked, what else? Everyone is allowed to enjoy his delight, even the most filthy, as they call it, so long as he doesn't bother good spirits and angels. They said, but one account of our delights, we can't help bothering them, so we thrown, we're thrown into penitentiaries.
Pen,
Penitentiaries.
pen, what is it? Ah,
Penitentiaries.
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 Penitentiaries. It's like house of correction, prison, like jail.
Penitentiaries. Where we suffer dreadfully, dreadfully, and withholding and denial of our delights. There is what we call the torment of hell, and it is inner pain to. Okay, why do you invest? Why do you invest good people?
What is infest?
Yeah.
Infest.
It's like infect, infection, infest.
Infection.
Parasitize.
Parasitize.
Infest.
Why do invest good people? They were asked. They said they couldn't help it. A kind of rage sets in when they see an angel and feel the divine aura around him. So you are indeed like wild animals, they said. And when they saw the newly arrived spirit with angels, a rage soon came over the devils, which seemed like the fire of hatred. Hatred. So
Hatred. Hatred.
hatred. Okay. Good. Okay. It's only me, or do you guys see the screen, guys?
I can see the screen, sorry.
I can see too.
Okay, I think the host is doing
I think
something right now.
he encountered some problem. Maybe he
Right.
will be back with you.
Okay.
Did he mention something? I didn't hear anything.
No, I also didn't hear something.
Oh,
Hello, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, my connection was lagging. Maybe I.
Okay.
mm, I will start sharing my screen. What about now? Can you hear the stream,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
book?
I can see.
Mhm.
but I forget what's what the last.
Maybe from this, why do you infest good people? Yeah.
Okay, okay. Why do you invest good people? They were asked. They said they couldn't help it. A kind of rage sets in when they see an angel and feel the divine aura around him. So you are indeed like wild animals, they said. And when they saw the newly arrived spirit with angels, and rage soon came over the devils, which seemed like the fire of hatred. Hatred. So they were thrown back into hell to keep them from doing harm.
After this,
Okay, I'm sorry. After this, the angels appeared, who see the reasons from the purposes and results from the reasons. They were in the heaven above the three groups. They appeared in the brilliant light, cycling down in spiral curves. They brought a round wreath and flowers and put it on the newly arrived spirit's head. And then a voice came to him from up there. This laurel in this laurel is given to you because you have thought about heaven and hell from childhood.
childhood. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. We finished this section. Mhm. This chapter. Next chapter is 20. Having a concubine. Mhm. Having a concubine. The previous concubine is like, it's like wife
Concubine.
in polygamy. Wife in polygamy, like this. Maybe. Oh, no, no, it's like maybe partner outside of marriage, maybe. Having a concubine. The previous chapter about fornication also dealt with having a mistress, which means a bachelor's.
Bachelors.
Bachelor's. I don't know. Means a bachelor's. Maybe in dictionary we can see in dictionary. Bachelor's. Mhm. Clipping of bachelor's degree. Okay, I don't know. Bachelors join with a woman by agreement. Here, however, having a concubine means a married man's joining with a woman, likewise by agreement. People who do not distinguish the types use these two terms indiscriminately. Indiscriminately.
Indiscriminately.
Indiscriminately. It's like illegibly.
Allegibly.
Illegibly. Illegibly. Indiscriminately. As if they had the same meaning and therefore stood for the same thing. But there are two types, and the term mistress suits the first because a mistress is a loose woman, and the term concubine suits the other because a concubine is a secondary bed partner. Concubine.
Concubine.
Concubine. Concubine is a secondary bed partner. So, to mark the difference, having a mistress refers to having an agreement with a woman before marriage, and having a concubine refers to the same thing after marriage. Discussion of having a concubine is in order here because the nature of marriage on the one hand and the nature of adultery on the other is being disclosed point by point. That marriage and adultery are opposite was first stated in the chapter about their opposition, how different they are, and in what way can only be learned through their relationships that fall somewhere between marriage and adultery, one of which is having a concubine. But there are two types of this which should be carefully distinguished from each other. So this discussion is broken down into its parts like the former ones as follows. There are two types of concubinage. Concubinage.
Concubinage.
Concubinage. Concubinage. It's like living in outside of marriage. Concubinage, which are very different. One that occurs while a man is with a wife, and other when he is separated from his wife. Having a concubine while with a wife is totally impermissible for Christians and is abhorrent. Mhm.
Impermissible.
Impermissible, unavailable, unallowable,
Unallowable.
unallow,
Unallowable.
unallowable. It's like unallowable. Impermissible for Christians and is abhorrent. Abhorrent.
Abhorrent.
Abhorrent. It is polygamy which is condemned in the Christian world and ought to be. It is an illicit relationship that destroys the marriage relationship, which is the precious treasure of Christian life. Having a concubine when separated from a wife is permissible when done for legitimate, just and truly important reasons. The legitimate reasons for divorce when the wife is nevertheless kept in the house are legitimate reasons for this type of concubinage. Concubinage. Concubinage.
Concubinage.
Concubinage. Concubinage. The justified reasons for separation from bed are the justified reasons for this type of concubinage. Concubinage. Well, there are serious reasons for this type of concubinage. Some valid and some specious. Specious.
Specious.
Species. Species. It's like
Plausible.
plausible. It's like credible. Credible. Maybe. Species. Species. The serious reasons that are valid are the just ones, but the serious reasons that are specious. Species.
Specious.
Yeah, species. That are species are the ones that are not just but yet appear to be just. Those who have a concubine this way for legitimate, just, and really important reasons may have love for marriage at the same time. While this concubinage continues, sexual union with a wife is not permissible. Now comes the the explanation of these topics. Permissible.
Permissible.
Permissible. Mm-hmm. Who wants to read next section? 463.
I read it.
Go ahead.
463.
Mm-hmm.
There are two types of concubinage, which are different. One that occurs while a man is with a wife. The other when he is separated from his wife. There are two types of concubinage that are very different from each other. One kind is adding a bedmate and living with her together with a wife at the same time. The other kind is taking a woman as a bed partner in place of a wife after legitimate and just separation from her. Those who examine the matter closely and carefully can see that these two types of concubinage are far apart, like dirty and clean linen. But
Linen.
those linen, but those who took in confusion or carelessly cannot see it. Indeed, those who have love of marriage can, but not those who love adultery. These people are in the dark about all the things that come from love of the other sex, but the others are the light of a in the light of day about them. But even those who are adulterers are can see these things and their differences when they hear about them from other thought, not on their own. For an adulterer has the same ability to lift up his intellect as a chaste partner does. But after an adulterer has accepted the differences from others, he still blots them out when he sinks his intellect into his uh, foul pleasure, foul pleasures. For chaste and unchaste and healthy and unhealthy cannot be the same. But intellect can tell them apart by separating them. In the in the spiritual world, I once asked people who did not consider adultery a sin whether they saw any difference between fornication, having a mistress, the two types of concubinage, and the degrees of adultery. They said that one thing is just like another. I asked if the same goes for marriage, and they looked around to see if any member of the clergy was there.
Clergy. It's
Clergy.
clergy. Clergy.
Clergy.
Mm-hmm.
Clergy.
Clergy.
Clergy. It's like priests. Clergy.
And when there was not, they said that it is the same. Per se, per se,
Per se. Per
per
se.
se. The ones who considered adultery a sin in their thoughts were different. They said that in their inner ideas, which come from perception, they saw the difference, but so far they had not taken the trouble to separate the acts and tell them apart. This I can affirm that the angels of heaven can tell the differences down to the smallest detail. So, to make it clear that there are two opposite types of concubinage, one that destroys the love in marriage and another that does not. The type that is condemned will be described first, and then the other type, which is not condemned.
Thank you. Having a concubine while with a wife is totally impermissible for Christians, impermissible for Christians and is abhorrent. It is impermissible because it is against the marriage covenant, and it is abhorrent because it is against religion. And what is against both of these at once is against the Lord. So as soon as someone adds a concubine to a wife without a valid, serious reason, it shuts him out of heaven, and the angels no longer count him among Christians. And from the time he scorns things that have to do with church and religion, and then he does not lift his face up above nature, but turns to nature as a deity that favors his desire and whose influence gives his soul life from then on. The inner reason for this abandoning of faith will come out in what follows. Will come out in what follows. The man himself does not know what this way of having a concubine is abhorrent.
Abhorrent.
Yeah, abhorrent. It's like this hateful. It's like loathsome,
Loathsome.
loathsome. Abhorrent because with heaven closed off, spiritual folly comes on. But the chaste wife sees right through it because she is married love, and it makes this love sick. Therefore, after this, many of them also give up joining sexually with their husbands. It would taint, taint,
Taint.
taint. It's like spoil, darken. In fact, it would taint their chastity by the infection of the lust that clings to the men from the prostitutes. Mm. Who is next? Who wants to read next section 465? Mm-hmm.
All right.
Nobody. Go ahead.
Read it. 465. It is polygamy, which is condemned in the Christian world and ought to be. Everyone can see, even without much perception, that having a concubine at the same time or in connection with a wife is polygamy. Even though it is not identified as such because it is not established by any law and given the name that way, for the woman serves as a wife and marriage bed partner. The chapter on the polygamy has shown that polygamy is condemned by the Christian world and ought to be mainly by these articles there. It is not lawful for a Christian to take more than one wife. And if a Christian takes more than one, he commits not only worldly adultery but also spiritual adultery. The Israelite and Israelite
Israelite.
Israelite nation were allowed to do it because the Christian church was not among them. These points make it clear that it is foul polygamy to add a concubine to a wife and share your bed with both.
Mhm. It is an illicit relationship that destroys the marriage relationship, which is the precious treasure of Christian life. Arguments that are convincing to a wise person's reason will show that this illicit act is more opposed to the love in marriage than the ordinary illicit act called the simple adultery, and that it is a deprivation, deprivation, maybe deprivation.
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 Deprivation. It's like taken, taken away. Deprivation. Deprivation of every ability and inclination toward the married life that is in Christians by birth. As to the first point, that having a concubine at the same time as a wife, or together with a wife, is an illicit act, more opposed to the love and marriage than the ordinary illicit act called the simple adultery, it can be seen from these facts. Ordinary illicit sex or simple adultery does not have a love like married love in it, for it is only a physical blaze that soon cools and sometimes does not leave behind it a trace of love for the woman. So this flaring wantonness takes away from married love only in some small way, if it is not done by plan or from conviction, and if the adulterer comes to his senses. Illicit polygamy is different. There is a love in it partnered after the love in marriage because it does not die down, scatter, and go away at all like ordinary simple adultery after it flares up, but it stays, renews itself, and settles in, distracting, detracting, detracting,
Detracting.
detracting. It's like diminish, reduce, and distract too. Distracting and detracting.
Distract.
Distract. Detracting from love for the wife to that extent and bringing on coldness toward the wife instead. For then a man finds the prostitute he is sleeping with attractive because his options are not restricted and restricted, are not restricted,
Restricted.
restricted like limited, restricted, are not restricted, and he can get away from her if he wants to. This independence is inborn in a worldly person. Independence. What is it?
Independence.
Independence, like autonomy. This independence is inborn in a worldly person, and it bolsters his love by pleasing.
Bolsters.
Bolsters. It's like strengthen. Bolsters his life by pleasing. And besides, there is a closer attachment to a concubine by enticement than to a wife. And vice versa, he finds his wife unattractive on account of his obligation. Enticement. Yeah, it's like more seduction.
Seduction.
Seduction. Then a wife, and vice versa, he finds his wife unattractive on account of his obligation to live with her imposed by the lifetime covenant. Imposed.
Imposed.
Imposed. It's like assigned. Imposed by the lifetime covenant, which seems the more restricting for the freedom he has with the other. It stands to reason that love for a wife grows cold and she herself worthless in the degree that love for a prostitute grows warm and she becomes precious. As to the second point, that having a concubine at the same time as a wife or together with a wife deprives a man of every ability and inclination toward married love, which is inborn in Christians. It can be seen from these facts. As pointed out already above, however much the love for a mate is transferred to a concubine, to that extent love for the mate is torn away, suffered through, and emptied out. Emptied.
Emptied.
It's like void. Emptied. Emptied out. This happens by closing of the inner reaches of the man's worldly mind and unclosing its lower levels. This can be established by the fact that in Christians the inclination to love one person of the other sex is seated or seated. Sex is seated. Yeah, seated.
Seated.
Seated. Of the other sex is seated deep within, and this seat can be closed off but not rooted out. An inclination to love one person of the other sex and also an ability to receive that love is implanted in Christians at birth, because that love comes only from the Lord and is made a matter of religion. And this Christianity, and in Christianity the Lord's divinity is accepted and worshipped, and the religion is from his word. This is the source of its being implanted and also transplanted. Implanted and transplanted.
Transplanted.
Yeah, transplanted. From one generation into another, it was said that this Christian marriage relationship dies as the result of polygamous fornication. This means that in a polygamous Christian, it is closed off and intercepted, but can still be revived in his descendants. Revived,
Revived.
like resurrected, revived in his descendants. Intercepted, interception,
Intercepted.
intercepted. It's like capture. Intercepted, but can still be revived in his descendants, the way the resemblance of a grandfather. Resemblance.
Resemblance.
It's like similarity, likeness. A resemblance of a grandfather or of his grandfather returns in a grandson or great grandson. This is why that marriage relationship is called the dual jewel, jewel,
Jewel.
jewel of Christian life and the precious treasure of human life and the treasure of the Christian religion. It is very clear that the marriage relationship is destroyed in a Christian who practices polygamous fornication from the fact that he cannot love a concubine and a wife equally like a Mohammedan, but fails to love his wife or cools off toward her in the measure that he loves his concubine or warms up to her. And more detestably, or detestably, in the same measure, he at heart identifies the Lord as just a man of this world and as the Son of Mary, but not the Son of God as well. And in the same measure, he also devaluate, devaluate, devalu- devaluates religion. Devaluates.
Devaluates.
Devaluates. It's about volume. Mhm. It's about value. Devaluates religion. But note well that this happens to those who are a concubine to a wife and join sexually with both, definitely not those who, for legitimate, just, and truly important reasons, separate from a wife and disconnect themselves from her physical love and make an arrangement with a kept woman. This type of com- compu- concubinage, com- com- concubinage comes next. Mhm. Uh, Next. Okay, who wants to read section 467 and next section 468? Because it is short. Mhm. And next section.
All right, I read it.
Mm-hmm.
Having a
Go ahead.
concubine when separated from a wife is permissible when done for legitimate, just and truly important reasons. The reasons meant by legitimate, just, and truly important will be given in their place. A mention of the reasons is put here at the beginning just to distinguish this type of concubinage, which the following articles deal with from the former type of concubinage. The legitimate reasons for divorce. What sorry. When the wife is nevertheless kept in the house are legitimate reasons for this type of concubinage. Divorce means abolishing a marriage contract and full separation on account of it, and afterwards complete freedom to take another wife. The only reason for this total separation of divorce is illicit sex according to the Lord's instructions. And in the same category are open obscenities, obscenities,
Yeah,
they,
what it is?
obscenities,
Obscenities. Let's see.
Obscenities.
obscenities.
Obscenity. Obscenities.
Obscenities.
Obscenities. It's like foul language, profanity,
Profanity.
Phalang,
profanity, and it's like maybe
Indecency.
oh,
indecency. Mhm. Obscenities. Obscenities, indecency.
Obscenity.
Like bad things.
All right. They remove modesty and feel and in
Modesty.
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 Modesty is like humility, unpretentiousness.
Unpretentiousness.
It's like chastity. Yeah, it's a good thing, like chastity,
Chastity.
chastity, like this. Modesty.
Modesty
And feel and
and in fest. The home with a shameful bawdiness.
what is it? Bawdiness. Bawdiness, maybe.
Bawdiness.
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 Bawdiness is like bad thing. Bawdiness.
All right.
Shameful bawdiness.
Producing sexual immodesties and that your whole mind is dissolved in. And to this ill will desertion that involves illicit sex and makes the wife commit adultery and be rejected for it. These three reasons are legitimate reasons for divorce. The first and third in the eyes of a public judge, and the second in the man's own judgment. So they are also legitimate reasons to have a concubine, in case the adulterous wife is kept on the home. The reason why illicit sex is the only cause of divorce is that it is diametrically opposed to the life of married love, and destroys it until it is exterminated.
Exterminated. What is it?
Exterminated.
Exterminated. It's like destroy. Exterminated. Many men still keep an adulterous wife in their homes. The reason are the man is afraid to sue his wife. To sue.
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 It's like ask, condemn like this. Condemn. To sue.
Sue.
Sue. The man is afraid to sue his wife, charge her with adultery, and in this way publicize.
Publicize.
Yeah, publicize. Publicize the offense openly. For if visual evidence or the equal of visual evidence did not bring a conviction in groups of men, he would be smothered in abuse quietly. Smothered.
Smothered.
Smothered. Smothered. Smothered. It's like suffocate. Smothered in abuse quietly and in groups of women openly. He also fears the clever pleas of his prostituted wife, and also the court's protection of her, and the resulting dishonor to his name. Besides all that, there are the conveniences. Conveniences.
Conveniences.
Conveniences. It's like comforts, handiness, conveniences, usability. Besides of all that, there are the conveniences of life at home that argue against her separation from the home, such as if they have children, whom even an adulteress has a mother's love for, if they have mutual duties and that stand in the way, keep them together and cannot be broken off. If the wife has inheritance and assistance from relatives and friends, assistance, and there is hope of a fortune from them. If he had cherished the friendly relations with her in the beginning, and if after she became a prostitute, she knows how to cle- cleverly, cleverly,
Cleverly.
cleverly, how to cleverly soothe, soothe the man with a flattering wit and pretended friendliness so as not to be blamed. Flattering wit.
Wit.
Wit is like it's like humor, mind. It's like
Ingenuity.
ingenuity, wit, flattering,
Flattering.
flattering wit, with flattering wit. Yeah, flattering wit. As not to be blamed. Other things too are in themselves legitimate reasons for divorce, so they are also legitimate reasons for having a concubine. Since the reasons for keeping her on in the home do not take away the reason for divorce when she has committed adultery. Who but a scoun- scoundrel, scoundrel maybe,
Scoundrel.
scoundrel. It's like bastard,
Bastard.
scoundrel. Who, who, who but a scoundrel can keep the vows of the marriage, bet in view, and share a pillow with a prostitute? If it does happen here and there, that demonstrates nothing. Who is next? Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I
Can I
think,
try one?
if nobody wants to read, do you want to read?
I'll read one passage.
One section,
The
yeah?
yeah,
Or passage. Okay, go on.
the justified reasons for separation from bed are the justified reasons for this type of concubinage. There are legitimate reasons for separation, and there are just reasons. Legitimate reasons are decided by judges, and just ones are decided by the man alone. Both the legitimate and the just reasons for separation from bed and from home were summed up earlier. Some of them are bodily defects, sicknesses that infect the body so much that contagion could be fatal. In this category are malignant and infectious fevers, leprosy, venereal diseases, and cancers. Then there are ailments
What is uh,
Ailments.
ailments? It's like
ailments
illness. Ailments.
that depress the whole body so much that there is no associating together, and they give off very harmful fumes and dangerous vapors, either from the body surface,
Mhm. Harmful farms.
gas,
Fumes.
Fumes. It's like vapor. Fumes. And contagion.
contagion,
Contagion.
Contagion. It's like infection. Contagion.
Contagion.
Contagion. hmm
or from inside it, particularly from the stomach and lungs. On the body's surface are malignant pox, warts, pimples, wasting scurvy, poison scabs, especially if they make the face ugly. From the stomach is constant foul, rank and smelly belching. From the lungs is foul and putrid breath given off by tumors, ulcers, or abscesses, or by corrupt blood or serum. Besides these, there are also other diseases of various names like what's that? Lipothemy, which is total weakening of the body and lack of energy. Paralysis, which is a loosening and relaxing of the membranes and ligaments needed for motion. Epilepsy, permanent feebleness from a stroke, certain chronic ills, the iliac passion,
What is it, Oleg?
Iliac.
It's like medical term.
hernia, as well as other ills that pathology teaches. They are mental defects that are justifiable reason for separation from bed and home.
Justifiable, yeah.
Justifiable.
Yeah, justifiable. It's about legitimate, permissible, justifiable.
Like mania, frenzy, insanity, simpleness, and foolishness in actions, loss of memory, and the other defects like that. Reasons do not need a judge to see that these reasons are justified reasons for having a concubine, because they are justified reasons for separation.
Thank you. Who wants to read next section? 471. Okay. I think this reading is over because my brain is tired and I have to go. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care.